What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be talking about the possibilities of the Toronto Maple Leafs trading William Nylander. Now, here's the thing. The reason why I'm bringing this up, the reason why I'm talking about this is because of comments made by two different sources that we will get to in this video. Not my sources, but sources that I'm sure you guys have even heard by now that have been out there today. And I was at work, so I wasn't able to talk about it earlier. But Elliotte Friedman and I believe Frank Saravalli were talking about William Nylander, and they both had kind of the same report, but also a little bit different if we break it down. So we're going to do that. So if you are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Join the squad. I'd love to have you guys here. I know there's a ton of people watching these videos that aren't subscribed, so doing so would help me a bunch. So I don't want to waste any more time. Like I said, in this video, we will be going over the future of William Nylander. Will it be in Toronto? Will they re-sign him? What number is he looking for? And we're just going to get into this, and hopefully you guys will enjoy. So basically, of course, my thing is not working to show you guys the big screen, but there we go. So anyways, Maple Leafs are apparently aggressively pursuing a Nylander extension. Now, according to Frank Saravalli on Daily Faceoff, he said, I think Treliving has been pretty aggressively pursuing a deal for William Nylander in the last number of days. I'd hesitate to speculate in terms of progress or what that might look like, but I do think the full court press has been on to try and get an answer. Now, this makes sense. The reason why it makes sense is because if the Maple Leafs are not sure if they're going to have to trade William Nylander, they could go into the draft knowing whether or not Willie wants to stay, what his number is going to be, and if it's too far off, the Maple Leafs might have to, make a big decision on trading him, because if at the draft there's a number of picks or players available for immediate help for the Maple Leafs that makes sense, obviously they're going to have to consider these things. And this is a good time for Treliving. I know he can't actually, be at the draft at the table, but of course he'll be working the phones, I'm sure, and making calls and trying to see what's out there. But this just makes the most sense in my eyes if the Leafs were going to do something. Now, again, I'm not saying the Leafs will be better if they trade William Nylander. In fact, I think that you objectively get worse unless you make a trade where you're, putting and pairing William Nylander together with a first-round pick to try to gain a player that's better. But how are the Leafs going to get a younger 40-goal scorer back, or get a number one defenseman that's on a nice deal for a long time? Like, again, I just advise you guys before you make all these crazy NHL 24, 23 GM mode trades that you have to get back something that's going to make this team better, because the Maple Leafs can't afford to take a step back. Now, people are going to say, well, you're just going to get a physical guy, who's going to get in the corners and he's going to give you 20 goals and that's going to make the difference. Well, no, it's not. A physical guy is going to make you more physical, but during the regular season, that's not going to get you 40 goals. And the Maple Leafs, what I have to tell people is you need to get to the playoffs. Oh, just trade Matthews. Don't worry, he's asking for too much money. Oh, trade William Nylander. He's going to ask for too much money. We don't need him. He's soft, blah, blah, blah. Like, then what? Like, there's also a then what? Like, you have to replace these players. So, in order to make this happen, you got to be careful what you wish for, because again, if the Leafs don't get better and they play worse, and then it becomes a whole different story and people are going to complain. So again, the Leafs can make this a trade for a core 4 guy, but they have to get better. Now, at Nylander Thews on Twitter, Friedman again on 32 Thoughts says to watch the Leafs and Nylander if he isn't signed by July 1st. It's decision time, and if the Leafs don't have any indication Nylander will extend by July 1st, what are they going to do? For me, we know Matthews is going to sign. It's just a question of when, for how long, and how much. So I think you can risk going into the summer with him unsigned. And then with Nylander, there seems to be a little bit of a gap. So the reported asking price of William Nylander is going to start with a 9. Now, How high that 9 gets is, I'm not sure. But if people thought William Nylander was going to be, in the $7 to $8 million range, you're kidding yourself. He was just on a $6.9 million deal. And, there was no shot he was going to get anywhere close to that again. He deserves a raise. And a lot of people thought that his contract was overpriced when he signed it. Yeah, if you look at deals around the league right now, you're going to see that a guy like William Nylander is getting paid in the $8.7 to $9 million range all day long. So you can't expect William Nylander to take that pay cut. And again, I'll show you guys some of his numbers, but like he was over a point per game in the regular season, nearly a point per game player in the playoffs. Last year, 80 points in 81 games played, so almost like literally by 1 point, was almost a point per game player. In the playoffs, he was a point per game. The year before that, he was over a point per game in the playoffs. This is the guy that's had some clutch moments for this team. The Leafs are not going to have an easy time re-signing him. And for me, I would hope that the number would come in at 8.8 or 8.9 if he was signing an 8-year deal. But again, there's no guarantee in whether or not the Leafs are willing to go that far or if he wants to go that far. It seems as though they're not close. So the Nylander camp is probably asking for, mid-9s, where the Leafs might be coming in mid-8s, which that's a pretty sizable gap when it comes to, a star player like William Nylander. Now, one thing I always bring up, and a lot of people go, well, look at what this player signed for. It's way less money and he's better and blah, blah, blah. I always have to bring this up to guys, and this is just a small example. Taxes and the cost of living and everything in Toronto versus other, places. But if we're talking about tax implications, math, money, whatever you want to call it. For instance, Nikita Kucherov signed an extension worth $9.5 million. If you compare that to John Tavares' $11 million a year contract, it looks like Kucherov took less. But if you look at his net salary, it is virtually the same as Tavares in Toronto. Tavares makes $11 million in Toronto, and his net salary is $5.145 million, while Kucherov's $9.5 million salary in Tampa nets him $5.781 million. Kucherov still has a higher net salary playing in Tampa Bay, even though Tavares gets paid $1.5 million more in Toronto. So players in Toronto are making the same amount of money as guys that are taking hometown discounts or sweetheart deals. The Leafs are taking home the same amount of money. So when you have to look at everything, you need to understand these little things as well. And like the cost of living comes into play, everything like that. But taxes will absolutely crush you when it comes to the money you're making. Like, obviously, I'm nowhere near these guys when it comes to the amount of money they're making. But like, because I'm 26 years old and I don't live at home anymore, and inflation is a real thing, and I work 3 jobs, I paid taxes this year, like a lot. And that's just how it goes. And it's expensive. These guys are paying so much money on their taxes. Like, I can't even believe like how much money they're making and how much they're paying. But it's like, you have to understand these things. They're making more money, but they're actually not. They're getting paid around the same amount of money. In this case, like, Tavares isn't even making the money that you think he is. So when it comes to the William Nylander deal, you need to take everything into account. And whether or not it gets done or not, we'll have to see. But this is just the first part of what looks to be like a bit of a mini William Nylander saga going in to the draft. So if you are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Join the squad. Love to have you guys here. Shout out to everybody watching, and let me know what you guys want me to talk about next. Peace.